Well, hi there. We're back after years. Let's be honest, it's been years since I played with this tutorial. I only had part one out, and I will apologize because I did want to get the tutorial further and explore more ways in which we can model certain shapes and approach certain forms with the Glock tutorial because I really want to explore all these shapes, all the way to model them, all the ways to incorporate them, and to really make that model work so you can model anything that is hard surface related. Because there is a lot of ways, a lot of techniques online, and I want I just wanted to put out there the ways I think are useful that I've learned in college. Unfortunately, I no longer attend college, but I learned a lot, and I hope I can transmit what I have learned with you all. So, this is the Glock 17 Part 2. Remember, this is not a walkthrough tutorial. It is purely meant to help you understand more how to approach certain models and certain shapes when you come to modeling. So, without further waiting, I jumped back in there to before recording to just finish the handle and get a feel back at it and make sure I wasn't doing anything stupid. So when we left, we were at the back handle over here of the Glock 17 with placing points by points, which is usually a good way to start really understanding the shapes. And if we look at the shape over here, because I don't have any top views of the Glock. Well, I kind of have right here, but it's not what I meant. I don't have any z-axis point of view where I can see from the top. But I'm pretty sure, I'm just gonna assume that it is not flat 100%. Like we can see the curvature in the image, and so is the handle. My handle here is a bit more flat. So what we're gonna do here is correct that by doing something quite simple. If I can press the correct selection tool. There we go. So now, if we remember, Alt left click, it selects a constant edge. And then we have tools above in the layout. Right here, you have the magnet. You can activate the magnet, which is a snap if you want to snap to the grid. Then next to it, we have proportional editing. In English, if you press O, it will activate. Then you can move the mesh, if I remember well, by move. Give me a second. Usually, you should be able to move the edges in proportion. Shouldn't take too long. So, there we go. It is with middle mouse wheel. It's been a while. That if you click on the moving X you want to move, and then with middle mouse wheel you can affect how much of the mesh you want to change. So, for example, if I want to move this all around in a very erratic position, like to make it kind of an edge kind of style, I can just take it and move it that way, or I can go over here, change it for sphere, since it is more of a spherical approach, like a cylinder almost on the handle. I can just go ahead, use that, and really just replace that correctly. Give it more of a handle shape. Of course, it is not perfectly circle. It is a bit flat to really mix with the shape of a hand. So that is things to keep in mind when we're doing this, is really to keep really in sight that if you're aiming for realism, you really must understand the shape and how it reflects. Right here, we can see the way it is shaped because of the light coming from the right. You can see it really is more cylindrical. The light is splitted more than if it was a flatter surface. And even here, we can see the middle, so we tell ourselves, all right, so there's the edge here. It's, it sounds technical and boring and annoying, but I can assure you, well, I can't really assure you anything, but I can at least tell you that it is easier to approach a shape that way, especially if you plan on really making it look good. And I plan on doing so myself because, well, I have a previous model that I did before ever starting this tutorial, just to practice. It, in my eyes, it looks awful. Like, the shapes are there, but the topology and the understanding isn't. Because there are better ways to make this. So that's what we're doing. I know it looks okay, but for example, you can see the handle is a bit too flat. Just a bit too flat here. So it's a good thing we are remaking it. You can see the difference. It looks so much better. With a better understanding of the shape, the way it presents. So, I'm going to stop being sidetracked. We're going to do today is the other part of the handle and how we can approach the thumb area, the thumb resting place. Because when you hold your gun, especially a handgun, you never put your thumbs on the slider. Okay, that's the sliding area. You never put your thumbs there for those who've never held a handgun before. Otherwise, you will rip off skin. So this right here, this little embossment we can call, is made to rest one of your thumbs. Because when you hold the pistol, you take it in your hands, with both hands, both thumbs are on the same side. So if you're a right-handed individual, your thumbs will be on the left of the pistol because your trigger finger is on your right hand. So usually you will have these resting pieces. Sometimes they're uniform, sometimes they're not, but we're going to discuss how we're going to approach this. So for the handle here, it's quite simple. It is literally the same thing we did for the back over here. But what we're going to do is an edge count, because this here is perfectly flat. Except of the crampon surface, it's perfectly flat. Like, it has no shape except down here for the mag grab. It is perfectly flat. We see it in the picture right here. It's going to be quite simple to do. And then we just have to replace the vertices and so on. But we're going to do that. It's going to be super quick. You might wonder why we're not attacking this surface here. The recurve place for the grab of the magazine. It's simple. It's really simple. I'd rather attack the whole handle than have to add the displacement or the extrusion for that place, because if we extrude, then we're gonna get a bit more messy topology here. And when it comes down to making shapes, try to keep it as simple as possible. Because if you go and add too much detail, it is so much harder to remove it. You all know what it feels like. It is so much harder to remove that extra detail you put in there. So we're going to turn back in wireframe. What we can do is place it So it follows a bit more, because it is too straight. And we're gonna make that edge flow go correctly as much as we can. Since we don't need that much here. What we will not change is this one right here. Because this is where we will transit to the flat surface on the side of the body, right here. Until we reach over here, and then it goes a bit more towards the inside of the gun. As the only one I will not change for now with the sliding. So now we've pretty much achieved into the round space. And one interesting thing about the measurements, I really hate that I don't have a front model. But we can check this one right here to determine. It's not the exact same, but it's still gonna work. So we got the trigger guard here that is around worth half, at least half, of the handle size. So what we can do, and even looks like it is an actual piece that is melted into the handle. So we don't even have to attack this yet. We can do this completely separately. That's gonna really make things easy for us to really separate these shapes. Because it really looks like it's just got melted into it. Some are molded, but I'm going to follow that model we just checked and just give it a shot. So what we can do now, if you guys want to refer to those points to really get the same curvature as in the back, what you can do is when you're extruding, for example, if we extrude this vertex here, I would say around here maybe, just halfway. We're gonna limit the vertex count as much as we can. I will just activate the I'm sorry, the magnet tool. Then magnet to vertex. And all I will do is press G, X on the x-axis, I want to move it. And if you go to a vertex that is a line, it will snap to the same distance. But since we locked it down to the x-axis, it will not go to the vertex you're looking. It will stick on that axis, but go at the exact same coordinates on the x-axis, which is very useful. If you tell yourself, for example, okay, so the first part of the handle, I want it to a bit more aggressive, since it is the end of the grip that we have on the gun. You can go ahead and do it this way, or if you think, you know what, maybe it's a bit softer. Maybe the handle on this one is a softer approach. So we're gonna go with the first spot, and we're gonna put it back a bit, just back. And then we're gonna extrude again on the x-axis. We're gonna go to the, if it lets me. Now we're gonna go to the next one and really start to give it more of a cylindrical shape. We can even replace this one, which is a bit too hard. Go around here like that. Extrude with E. Press G, then X. And then you lock to the press around freaking thing. Then you go to the next one. Move it to the Y a bit. Now, since we arrive really at the end of the handle, it comes a bit flatter than the back, just a bit. Since it is not the exact same shape, I'll just glue these two together. Now we're gonna just have a look at how it looks, really. And of course, we can replace those vertices to have a better flow, because it looks disastrous. So what I'm gonna do is really J, Z. Sorry, G, then Z for the Z axis. And just replace that band of vertices. Maybe raise this one a bit. There we go. Then just slide this guy because I don't want to affect anything else. Always remember to keep a clean flow as much as possible. Okay, maybe it's a bit too low here. If you guys think you can't see a damn thing with a black wireframe, what you can do, if I'm correct, there's a way to change that in the options over here. Is it here? Nope, 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 nope. It is somewhere. If it comes back to me, I'll show it to you. Or if you guys know, leave it in the comments below. I think it's the outliner. Outliner color, something like that. Yes. If I'm correct, that's the outline of your shape. If you ever wonder what shape as it start, it's always great to know if you ever get lost in certain places with all non-shaded models or parts of a model. Because then there was a way to change the color of the wireframe, but I don't remember what it is. But it doesn't matter. So now that we have achieved our handle shape, I'm just gonna replace it to please more of my eyes. It is up to you. You are the modeler. It can be fully accurate if you have more references. If you have one with the model shape from the front, go ahead and use it. I'm just gonna go with what I see from the image right there. And so far, it looks like... Well, I'm a bit short on the handle. So, I'm just gonna extrude this. Well, extrude. Move this in the correct position. This right here. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Y-axis. Okay, this is better. It's more cylindrical, but it still has the comfortable shape for the fingers, which is basically almost oval. We're just gonna move this guy again. This guy again. There we go. Because we could have taken a cylinder and then shape it all down up, but I really want to approach really how we can approach this model for a more technical point of view. Now, what we can do is select these vertices, since we have the shape semi-correctly down. What we can do is to scale it a bit. S and Y. Scale it on the Y-axis a bit. Move it just a bit. Because we see the handle transform here, but if it wouldn't, it would keep going right there. Just here. I'm just trying to align these two parts. It would have been, yes, easier to go down below here if you guys want to do that. You're fully welcome to do so. Now we're gonna go and align this. I'm gonna go just do a straight line, since it is a straight object, just down here. Right. So now, all I need to do is add my edge count so I can actually bridge it together and have a quick look at what it is supposed to look like. So I'm going to press Control R, and then with mouse wheel up, I can increase my edge cuts. So I guess there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 cuts that I need to perform. And so far I got 6 there. That should be good. What I'm gonna do now is align those vertices. I select the edge, Shift V, just like them. I hope I'm not taking too much time. I really want to attack this without taking an hour. Because if I remember well, the last tutorial I did took quite a while. And if you end up seeing that, hey, you have an edge, an extra, just like me right here, because apparently I can't count, press X, then dissolve vertices, not delete, dissolve. Because you got the delete panel here. Only dissolve them. Because if you delete, bad, I will correct myself. It is dissolve edges. You will remove the edges without removing the geometry. Because otherwise, just like it happened before with the vertices, I'm sorry about that, I will still correct myself. You have to select the edge and dissolve edges so that it removes vertices and edges without trying to replace geometry. Because otherwise it gets all nasty just like you saw. And it's far from being appealing. Especially when it comes to bridging shapes. I'm going to select this edge, and bridge. Remember, if you want to do a selection of a certain length, you go and press Control from one point, and then hold Control until you press the next point you want to select along with. Be careful with that tool. It selects the shortest path. So if it has to turn a corner, you might as well go ahead, for example. You want to get from here to around here. Well, you're going to press, then Control. It does like that, but you're like, you know what? I want to go through here first. You have no choice but to go to here and then here. So you select only the path you wish to have. Because sometimes if you're going to bevel an edge later on, and you're like, I need to bevel this without selecting the rest, it is a bit more tricky. Now, we're going to take a precaution and recalculate the normals. It is really something to get a hang of. You can always turn on some shading so you can see if the normals are correct or not. But I don't trust it, so I just go to Mesh, Normals, and then recalculate outside. Just in case. Because if you ever get some artifacts in weird ways, you really, really want to know how to use that tool. So you don't get screwed when you do your model and say, hey, what's that pinching right there? I'm gonna turn off subdivision. Not any news right now. Yeah, so far it is looking good. We're gonna pursue without the guard. We're gonna think about how we're gonna incorporate that, because when you add this, you see how hard, I'm just gonna go back to the reference, how hard these edges are. I don't want it to influence the rest of the gun we have. The rest of the Glock, I don't want it. Because when you harden this, you're going to add another edge along this path, and it's going to create some weird pinching. So we're going to figure out sometimes in the future. It's not going to be on this episode, unfortunately. I really want to attack the remaining of the surfaces here to really have a basic shape. And even the thumb base, we're going to do that maybe later on. Give me a second. You know what? We're going to attack the thumb shape right away, since we have a bit of time. Just a bit of time. So now, what we're going to do here is take the vertex, extrude on the y-axis. 1 and 2. Then we're going to select these two edges, bridges loop. Now you might wonder how we're going to attack this shape right here. What we need is to create a, I would say, a rail guard, basically. Which is, an I'm gonna get the words out of my mouth. Preservation edge. Which means if I put insertion here, for example, I need something to protect the rest of the faces so they don't get affected. Just gonna do this here and rotate X on the Z axis. I just wanted to get that here as well. How does it look like? Okay, not too bad, not too bad. Might need to replace that later on. Okay, we're gonna get to that thumb area. Even though you can achieve that with texturing, I'm gonna go ahead and look at how it is placed. Shift V, replace these guys. I want them to follow, but not to be too far too. Alright, there we go. So we're going to have that thumb area we're going to work on. What we're going to use is the knife tool. So basically, we're going to take the knife tool. And we're going to use this knife to create our preservation edge. So what we're going to do is create a new face in here. You could use insertion, but I don't like that tool. I'll be honest. It is good for certain situations, but here I don't want it to mess everything. So what I'm going to do is really create an insertion in here. And if you might have noticed before me, but apparently my model is off of the reference image. Apparently. Oh, I can't move my reference. That's why. Just gonna replace that one. Shouldn't be too long. Then I'll adjust the handle myself on my own time. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna adjust that. We're gonna be right back. It's freaking bothering me. Alright, so we are, well, I never end the stream, but I'll probably cut to this part. So now I have replaced my handle because, well, like an idiot, I didn't pay too much attention. Even though it is not replaced correctly, I will stick with this, and I'll change it later on. Now, the thumb resting area. So what you see here, there's an embossment. So there's depth to it, and there's a pinch as well over here. So we got two different shapes to attack. So what you can do is manually, like we were doing earlier, create the shape right here. So I'm just going to do this very low poly so we understand how we're going to approach this, because it doesn't matter if we have another edge right here. It's perfectly fine. It's not going to get too complicated if it's like we did more cuts this way on the horizon lines. That's when, in my opinion, it gets messy. And just to be sure, remember, I'm no professional. I'm no longer in school, couldn't afford it, and I would have had to move to campus to finish a class that I failed. So yeah, but still doesn't change the fact 3D is amazing, and I wish I could do more of it. So that's what I'm doing now. I've been busy for a little while. And after so many demands that I'm sorry, it looks like I ignored them, but I assure you I have not. Just couldn't find the opportunity to really get this on. So what we're going to do is either Move this on the x-axis, you're gonna see what happens. It looks too big. Like, it looks too big. It looks like your thumb is a freaking giant. You can turn on subdivision and be like, oh, I'm satisfied. But in reality, it is not that proportion. It is quite smaller. So what we're gonna do to make it better, just gonna press Control Z a couple of times to undo this mess, is now we're gonna use the insert tool, because I fear less since we have that protection edge right here, the conservation edge that we created, so the shape is safe. So we're gonna press I on the keyboard for insertion, and we're gonna insert that here. Now, to make sure it follows correctly, we're gonna replace those vertices, because what insertion does, it follows the normals and the edges in a weird way. It can be useful, but usually tries to keep a very sharp style. If I'm correct, there is an option that we can press or check in the insertion tool to make sure, hey, it follows XYZ for when we insert, or if I'm correct, you know, if I press I and I again, you know what? I'll check this on later on. We're gonna continue attacking this shape. Well, since now we are inside of the shape, we see right here now we have this edge in which the thumb, we see the depression get in. Now all we have to do, since the thumb has a curved look kind of surface, we just have to take it and move it on the X, just to give it its depth. And if you want to give it more depth, it is up to you. It is not that deep, though. That's what she said. And to make it follow a bit more, we're going to scale it on the Y-axis. So press S, then Y to lock it to the axis. And we're going to press that a bit back again. And then we're going to take the vertice tool, well, the vertice selection, and just move that vertice in the back so it follows a bit more naturally. Because let's be honest, the thumb is round, but also kind of flat in certain ways. I don't know if you understand a bit what I'm talking about. But when you rest your thumb, it kind of rests flat. Like your thumb gets straight. So it kind of flattens out on the surface. Now, what we're gonna do is check what it looks like shaded smooth. So, I'm gonna turn off my... Not this. I'm gonna turn on subdivision to see how well it looks. So, it looks interesting. But, what really sells out this element is the pinch beneath it. It's really the pinching beneath it that sells out the shape. So what we can do is go back here, take the vertices, and we can place a vertices so it follows through, but it's going to distort the shape a bit. And we can give it a try still. So you see, don't move it too much, okay? Don't trust subdivision mode. Because if you go back, you're going to see it looks nasty. Really nasty. So what we're going to do here is going to be interesting. Let's see. We could add more vertices, like for more constraint flow. Don't do that too much. Remember why. If you have too much, it gets messy to control and really to keep a good control of, and the flow as well. So now, what I'm going to do here is press O. move on the X. Then, with the mouse wheel, I'll control how much I want it to be influenced. Right. I'm gonna press both of these guys right here. Okay, that looks a bit more interesting. Of course, it has a harder edge. I'm pretty sure later on, we will have to come back here and give it a harder edge with either the seams tool or, well, the seams tool. Hardening the edges with a certain option in the end menu, or to directly influence the shape by adding a bevel to it. Well, actually, let's see if a bevel works right now. The Control B. Oh God, my eyes. Oh, good grace. Nope. Okay, so to make it a bit more messy then, knife tool. What we're gonna do is use Blender's power. If you press N, you have this menu that pops on the right here of your viewport. You can go to, if I am correct, there's an option in here. If I select those edges, aha, an item. You have mean, there's something called edges data, and you can increase something called the mean. It is the weight of a subdivision on the model. So if you increase that, you're going to see the edge turns purple. If you turn on the subdivision, this area is now quite harder. Just a bit harder. And if you really want to give it that crispy edge when you get in more detailed areas, you can activate a bevel, and then method, weight, then select those edges, and increase bevel weight. It will use, we're going to put down to 0.5. 0.5. It's going to take the weight you apply to those edges in blue and apply this bevel modifier to it. So it is the only thing that is influenced. If you want to influence, like, okay, I would just want it to be a bit harder, and I want to have a solid count of 3, makes disgusting triangles. If you go for cinema kind of models, it is eyes burning, I'm going to say it like that, to have this kind of face. When you make production models for like videos or VFX, usually the standard is quads, which means those squares, and it is always easier to deal with than with triangles, if you ever wonder. So now, just by the increase, it looks so much better. So much better. I'm just going to turn off my... where is it? There you are. Wireframe. It looks so much better. And if you're like, you know what? There's too much in the corners. You can just select those edges. Just clicking, then shift and click. And reduce them. You can just do that. And really, just really give it that part. Or if you want to be even more precise, what you can do is do it to the vertices. Really increase that pinching or release it. People like, I don't want any here. Okay, well then you want to have maybe 0.5. And if you want it to be a bit softer, you just put it down like to 0.8. You can play around with that. It's no issues at all. To really get it to shape. Like, it looks so much better this way. Then we have the flat area, which is kind of harder. So what we're going to do, I know I don't want to take too long, but I think it is important to attack this correctly. we're gonna take this here, those vertices, and raise it up. Just raise it up. So they have its more transitional shape. Oh, this right here. So it looks more fidel to the image we're working with. And then here, in the worst case, you can always increase the crease of the edges. Just gonna turn off subdivision. Right here, that edge loop. All we can do is really increase this right here. Just to give it a more defined circle shape. Same thing here. Oh. It is a useful tool to know, especially in Blender. I'm unsure if Maya or any other programs have this, but it is quite a useful trick. If you want, you can model more precisely this part of the pinching, but I just wanted to show you how we can approach it without putting a load and load and load of polygons in the model. Or if you ever want, you can just be like, okay, fine, I'll just extrude this. Do as you wish. You can just go ahead and extrude the shape the way you have it formed. Example, take this, extrude the x-axis. Then, S, Y. Since it is this way, that S is Z. Flatten it a bit more. It looks kind of nasty, but I'm pretty sure you're getting the idea. So if you really want to have a higher detail of that place, feel free to add more geometry the way we just did, or you can even select from down here to make it a square area of work, and you create that pinch in a subdivided area right here and make it like a more detailed triangle. But I'm keeping that low poly approach right here. So it doesn't seem to be much, but that's gonna be it for now. I'm probably gonna do a part 3. I hope I can keep my word on that one. I'm so sorry about that. But I hope he helps you guys understand in a more easy flow than some tutorials that are a bit more advanced. Just really approaching those shapes specifically are easy, but you still need to get used to it and test it. And if you're unsure about what you're doing, there's no shame in failing. Like, have you seen? I fell with my handle 2 times in a row now, and I'm just gonna have to replace this correctly by hand. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, I do hope it was useful in some way, and I'll guess I see you either in the next tutorial or one of my gaming videos. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.